Hello, I'm Noel Campbell, a curator at the National Museum of Ireland Country Life. In this talk, I will go through a selection of documents from a recently obtained collection. The Merry Documents is a donation of 40 papers, certs, letters, receipts and notices, which were acquired by the National Museum of Ireland in 2023. The documents cover 150 years of life on the land occupied by the Merry family in the townland of Knockrower in the parish of Kilturra in rural County Sligo. From the earliest document dated 1809 to the last from the mid-20th century, the documents provide a glimpse into the life of a typical farming family in the west of Ireland. This collection was kindly donated by the family of Sean Cairns, whose mother was a member of the Merry family. That the documents have survived this long and in such good condition is due in no small part to the care given them by Mr. Cairns. This document, dated the 28th day of July 1809, lists some of the duties imposed on everyday necessities. Pat Murray of the parish of Kilturra paid 3 shillings and 3 pence duty on his house for 1 year's duty or tax due as above to His Majesty between the 5th day of January 1808 and the 5th day of January 1809. The stamp in the bottom right-hand corner reads Collector of Hearth Money and circles a winged harp with a royal crown above. A faint signature can be partly made out at the bottom of the document and appears to be that of Pat Merry himself. The document also allows for duty on fire hearths, windows and types of carriages. Hard tax was expected on each fire hearth within the house. In 1793, a large proportion of the single hearth households, the rural majority, were relieved of the tax. In Ireland, the hearth tax was recorded on hearth money rolls. Most of the originals were destroyed in the 1922 Four Courts fire. Window tax was not imposed on Ireland until 1799 and remained until 1851. Pat Murray's landlord at this time was Henry John Temple, 3rd Viscount Palmerston. Palmerston visited his Sligo estates for the first time in 1808. In his biography of Lord Palmerston, Jasper Ridley paints a picture of life on Palmerston's boggy and poor Sligo land. Not unfeeling towards his Irish tenants, Palmerston observed on his visit, "They are too poor to improve their land, and yet it is impossible to turn them out, as they have no other means of subsistence." Palmerston set about attempting to improve the lives of his tenants. He built roads for easier access to markets, constructed schools, and had experienced farmers teach tenants improved methods of farming. Lord Palmerston later served as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on 2 occasions. 19th century Ireland was predominantly a rural country. When this receipt was issued, only 1/5 of the Irish population of 8.1 million lived in towns. Mary Daly found little evidence of any strong feeling against landlords as a class in the early 19th century, and that the most deep-felt grievance at the time related not to rents but to tithes, the payment of the upkeep of the Church of Ireland clergy. The tithe allotment books for the parish of Kilturra, dated 1833, record several Murrays occupying land in the townland of Knockrower. Tithe allotment books were completed for most rural Church of Ireland parishes. Based on the quantity and quality of land held by an occupier, the tithe or tax payable to the Church of Ireland was determined. The tithe was also to be paid by Catholic families such as the Murrays. Pat Murray held just over 10 acres and 23 perches of land, 4 acres and 2 roods of which were classified as arable. A rood was 1/4 of an acre and a perch 1/40th of a rood. This would have classified Murray as a small farmer. Thomas and Michael Murray are also recorded in the tithe allotment book in Knockrower. This receipt shows Thomas and Michael Murray have paid Lord Palmerston £14, 13 shillings and 9 pence for half a year's rent. This handwritten letter, dated the 5th of March 1841 and signed by Michael Murray, is addressed to Edward MacDonagh. In it, Murray demands the return of £11 he paid for a horse that he protests was not fit to be sold. It reads, "Sir, take notice that the horse bought from you at the fair in Ballingar on the 6th day of January last, and paid you the sum of £11 sterling for same, and at the time of sale and delivery you engaged all right and sound and without any fault or impediment, but said horse is contrary to your engagement, was unsound, and at the time of sale had a blood spavin and appeared the following day after being sold. I hereby give you notice to take back said horse and pay me said sum of £11 paid you for same, and in case you refuse so doing after service of this notice, I will set up and sell horse by public auction in the market town of Tubbercurry on Wednesday the 10th day of March instant at the hour of 12 o'clock noon with all his faults, and I further give you notice that I will for any loss sustain in the consequence of said horse, sue according as the laws directs without further notice from me." And Michael Murray signs the letter himself. The blood spavin causes a swelling in the hind leg of a horse, and Mary was obviously not too happy with the purchase. Prior to the famine of 1845 to 52, destitution was widespread in Ireland for 60% of the year. The government attempted to ease the plight of the poor by passing the Act for the more effectual relief of the destitute poor in Ireland into law in 1838. The law provided for the division of Ireland into 130 poor law unions, each centred on a market town and comprising of the rural hinterland of about 10 miles in radius. A board of guardians ran each union, and each board was to finance the running of a workhouse by striking a poor rate to be exacted from all eligible people in the union. Thomas Murray received this receipt, dated the 5th of November 1846, for payment of the poor rate in the Boyle Poor Law Union. We hereby give you notice to quit and require you to deliver up on or before the 1st day of November next the quiet and peaceable possession of all that and those part of the townland of Knockrower containing 20 acres or thereabouts, with the houses and offices therein. This notice to quit was served on tenants Thomas and Michael Murray by Stuart and Kincaid, agents to the Right Honourable Henry John Viscount Palmerston. It's dated the 24th of February 1847, at the very height of the famine. Stuart and Kincaid had been described as the most important land agency in Ireland during the 1840s, and the firm, in its previous form, were agents to Palmerston and his father since the 1790s. Stuart and Kincaid's fee was 5% of rental income. In the same year, Viscount Palmerston assisted about 2,000 of his Sligo tenants, including their dependents, to emigrate to British North America. Received from Michael Murray of Knockrower the sum of £1, 14 shillings and 1 pence for county cess of Upper Half Barony of Carron, payable at Spring Assizes 1855, dated this 21st day of January 1856, and signed by William Taylor, Deputy High Constable. An assize was a court sitting. On top of its existing duties, grand juries were authorised to collect money through a county rate or cess for a variety of purposes, from the construction of roads and bridges to maintaining hospitals, lunatic asylums and county infirmaries. A levy was set for each barony, in this case the barony of Carron. A high constable was employed in each barony for the collection of the public cess. Grand juries were made up of the main local landholders. Importantly, the county cess was levied on occupiers and not owners of land, so grand jurors were taxing not themselves but their tenants. As recorded in Griffith's valuation for the townland of Knockrower in 1857, Thomas Michael Martin and Michael Murray Jr. all rented land of equal value from Lord Palmerston, which amounted to 119 acres in total. This notice to quit was served on tenant Thomas Murray Jr. from Viscount Palmerston through his agents, Stuart and Kincaid, and is dated the 29th of April 1862. Serving a notice to quit did not necessarily lead to an eviction. Tenants were given time to pay the arrears owed. Received from Thomas Murray £20, 8 shillings and 4 pence for 1 year's rent due to the Right Honourable the Lord Viscount Palmerston, dated 15th of November 1864. The payment allowed for the poor rate to be assessed at 4 shillings and 4 pence. Agent James R. Stewart Jr. for land agents Stewart and Kincaid. An impressed stamp of 1 penny can be seen in the top left corner. This certificate of area and valuation of land in the townland of Knockrower and Tubbercurry Union, occupied by Thomas Murray, is dated the 3rd of February 1882. The land of 29 acres, 3 roods and 33 perches was valued at £17. A building valued at £1 was included in the valuation, which was certified by James Donoghue, clerk of the Tubbercurry Union. Seen here is Michael Murray, born in 1866, outside his home in Knockrower. In 1882, Michael's father, Thomas, applied for fair rent to be fixed on the land in Knockrower. Land reform was being demanded by tenants, often through violence. The campaign for reform spread to Knockrower and the Murrays. A notice of application by tenant Thomas Murray to the Land Commission Court to fix fair rent under Land Law Ireland Act 1881. Murray's landlord were Mrs. Hippisley and Miss Sullivan. The landlord's agents were Stewart and Kincaid. Signed by Thomas Murray, dated 3rd February 1882. Under the Land Act of 1881, a tenant, or landlord and tenant jointly, could apply to the Land Court for rent to be fixed. The landlords, Elizabeth Mary Hippisley, née Sullivan, and her sister Charlotte Antonia Sullivan, were nieces of Lord Palmerston. Palmerston had died in 1865. At this time across Ireland, during a campaign that became known as the Land War, tenants demanded fairer rents. Destruction of landlord property was organised by tenants in an effort to force their demands. White boyism became a general term used by the courts and the press for all agrarian violence. The White Boys were an 18th century secret society. Pat and Michael Murray of Knockroar appeared in court in 1880, accused of carrying out acts of white boyism in their townland the previous year. Civil ejectment bill for non-payment of rent, where 1 year's rent due served on Thomas Murray Jr., Knockroar, dated 17th March 1883. The plaintiffs are Elizabeth Mary Hipsley and Charlotte Antonia Sullivan, both of London. The yearly rent stated is £22 10 shillings. £56 5 shillings, or 2.5 years' rent, remained unpaid. The back of the document notes, if the amount thereof be paid to the plaintiff, or their solicitor, or their known agent or receiver, together with the sum of 10 shillings in full of all costs of such ejectment proceedings, within 10 days from the service thereof, all further proceedings will be stayed. It is unclear if the ejectment took place or if Murray paid what was due. The family was on the land only a short time later in 1889. This receipt to Thomas Murray for payment of £1 14 shillings of the poor rate for the Kilturra electoral division of Tubbercurry Union was issued on the 16th of November 1889. There was no arrears recorded. It's signed by Collector James Cunningham and stamped James Donoghue, the clerk of the Tubbercurry Union. Gertrude Cooperative Creamery Limited, receipt for payment of £1 10 shillings 6.5 pence, received for manures purchased by Thomas Murray, dated the 26th of June 1897. This receipt also served in the instance when a person was buying shares in the creamery. The cooperative creamery movement was in its infancy in 1897, and a public meeting had been held in February of that year to gauge support for the establishment of a creamery in Gertrude. The movement in Ireland was championed by Horace Plunkett on his return from America in the late 1880s. Trusting that tenant land ownership issues would be solved, Plunkett believed farmers' remaining problems would be solved by organisational rather than political change. Irish Land Commission card issued to tenant Thomas Murray Jr. of Knockroar. The card gives details of tenant, landlord and fixed judicial rent of £14 1 shilling. Order dated 19th of March 1902. According to the 1901 census, 65-year-old farmer Thomas Murray was living in Knockroar with his wife Anne and children Michael and Maria. Also in Knockroar, in separate houses, were Michael and Patrick Murray. The Land Act of 1881 provided for the establishment of the Land Commission. The Land Commission initially settled rent disputes between landlord and tenant, but as land reform progressed, the Land Commission's importance grew to a position where, in the words of Dr. Tony McCarthy, it controlled virtually every aspect of Irish rural life. In 1905, under the provision of the Irish Land Act 1903, and through the Irish Land Commission, Michael Murray Jr. purchased his land in Knockroar from his landlords, then Charlotte Antonia Sullivan and Colonel William Henry Hipsley, for £351. Interest on the purchase money was payable to the Irish Land Commission by Murray at a rate of 3.5% per annum. Michael and Kate Murray, pictured on their site in Knockroar. After his father Thomas passed away, Michael purchased the land in 1905. By the time this envelope was received by Michael Murray Jr. of Knockroar, his father Thomas had passed away, and living with him in the Murray house were his mother Anne and his wife Kate. This envelope is dated 1913 and is stamped Irish Land Commission surrounding a crown and stamped on His Majesty's service. Receipt of payments to the Irish Land Commission by Michael Murray with lands in Knockroar, dated 1912 to 1913. Land purchase account enabled through Irish Land Acts 1903 to 1909. On the back reads, the gale days for the payment of the half-yearly instalments of the purchase annuities under the Irish Land Act 1903 are the 1st of June and the 1st of December in each year. If the advance is not made on one of the gale days, interest at £2 15 shillings per cent per annum is payable from the date the advance is made to the next gale day, either the 1st of June or the 1st of December. Gale days were traditionally the days on which rent was due. On the left is a poor law receipt dated 1937. Poor law unions were abolished in the Irish Free State in 1925, and the roles of the boards of guardians transferred to the County Council's Board of Health and Public Assistance. Poor rates continued to be adopted by local authorities, in this case by Sligo County Council. Receipt for second moiety of the poor rate in the County Health District of Sligo, received from Michael Murray Jr., Knockroar, dated 27th of March 1937, and collector is John O'Dowd. On the right is a drainage rate receipt from 1937, most likely paid on the same day as the previous poor rate. This receipt for 12th instalment of drainage rate received from Michael Murray, Knockroar, under the River Owenmore Drainage Act 1926, as with the previous document, is dated on the 27th of March 1937, and again John O'Dowd is the collector. In accordance with Section 14 of the River Owenmore Drainage Act 1926, a drainage rate was made in relation to lands that were said to have been drained or improved, and was assessed on the rated occupiers of those lands. The drainage rate was adopted by Sligo County Council, and the drainage rate book could be inspected in the offices of Sligo County Council. For a list of works referenced in this talk, please visit the accompanying online exhibition on museum.ie. I want to thank the Cairns family for donating this collection in memory of Sean Cairns, whose appreciation of local history has ensured these documents have been preserved for future generations. You too can preserve your local history. Through the National Museum's ICANN initiative, local history and heritage groups are supported to digitise previously unpublished family and local records and make them accessible online. Groups in County Sligo are invited to join ICANN. For more information, please visit museum.ie or contact Siobhan Ryan, County Sligo Heritage Officer, at sryan@sligococo.ie or email icann@museum.ie. ICANN is delivered in partnership with the Heritage Council, participating heritage officers and community groups across Ireland.